This interview is brought to you by Burned Up Coaching and Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self in the 21-Day Challenge. So if you're an entrepreneur or a high achiever and you're committed to breaking through your BS, getting more clarity on your purpose in life, recharging yourself, re-energizing, rejuvenating, breaking through your plateau, or if you're just vaguely dissatisfied and you know you got more potential in you, then the 21-Day Challenge is the perfect fit for you to break through all that BS and get to your next level and become your GPS, okay? So 21 days, what you'll do, you'll get clear on your statement of purpose, your life vision, break that down into bite-sized steps, especially a 21-day goal. You'll get daily support to achieve that, daily accountability, progress reports, and check-ins to make sure that you're doing your daily assignments. And if you fall off track, we'll make sure we get you back on track, keep up the heat, and then we do weekly deep dive calls as well. So if there's something that keeps coming up for you, we'll feel into that and figure out what it is and pull that out, pull that limiting belief out, create a new reality, a new perspective, a new paradigm so that you can transcend that and be your greatest possible self. If you're committed to being your greatest possible self and doing the 21-day challenge, send me a message, chris@beyourgps.com, or through Facebook, facebook.com/th3burns. Would love to hear from you. And if you're committed to doing this, support you in achieving that goal and that vision. So send me a message. We'll see if it's a good fit for you and help you achieve your next 21-day challenge goal. Let's read the iTunes review of the week. It's left by You Got Sam. And You Got Sam says, leap into launching your vision. I absolutely immersed myself with this podcast all weekend. I can speak from personal experience. I used to be the #1 procrastinator on the face of this planet. However, after meeting Chris Burns and listening to his podcast and all his content over social media, I've taken that leap and launched my vision, and it has become a reality in the making. Hands down, so much value and knowledge has been taken away from this podcast. I highly recommend subscribing and taking that leap just like I have chosen to do. Cheers. Thanks so much, Sam. And if you want to give us a review, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes, or you can search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on the iTunes Store, or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on Facebook and give us a review there. Thank you in advance for doing that and letting us know what you love, what can be improved, and how we can grow into our greatest possible self. Oliver Wolf. My goodness, this guy is about to bring the freaking fire. So make sure you stick around all the way till the end because he's an incredible, incredible man doing some big things in the world, creating a Wolf Syndicate and all kinds of cool stuff. You'll find out about it. And just make sure you stick around. Oliver Wolf is a business strategist, sales coach, and founder of the Wolf Syndicate Coaching and co-founder of the Impact Network. He began his entrepreneurial journey almost a decade ago in Montreal in a non-typical way. Having come from a dark place, he has completely recreated himself, his universe, and has become a light of inspiration. Oliver, now 26 years old, has been a top 1% performer in every position he's taken on. His consecutive success led him to coach more than 50 separate businesses in different industries, as well as speak about philosophies for success to as many as 70 entrepreneurs at a time. He's currently building the Wolf Syndicate into an empire of integrity, transparency, and open-mindedness, as well as the Impact Network into an unstoppable tribe to impact the world. And we are absolutely blessed to have him here with us today. Oliver, are you ready to rock this, bro?
Hell yeah, man. It's kind of hard to follow up with that energy. It's off the charts, but you know what? It's inspiring at the same time, so I'm pumped.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a blast, and I love your background, man. I love the, I think we were talking about my Phoenix. I don't have it. Yeah. I'm out in Vegas. I'm out in Vegas at my girlfriend's house.
I was like, that's so cool, man. And I was like, you know what? I have a flag. I'm going to throw that right out.
Dude, that's freaking rad. I love it. And hey, you can have the title this week. Okay, you got the coolest background this week.
Hey, score.
Love it, man. Love it. So we're going to dive into a lot of really cool stuff today. We always start off with the theme of the day, which today is embodying your leadership. So Oliver, how has this concept and principle of embodying your leadership played a role in your life? How has it impacted your life, your career, your relationships, and what does it mean to you?
So embodying the leadership role, right?
Yeah, like your leadership, like as a leader, how do you embody that?
Gotcha. Yeah, so leadership, boy, definitely one of my favorite terms. Lots of coaching on what it means to be a leader and how to lead and all that kind of stuff. And it's such a fun role to take on. It's one of the most difficult because, of course, if you've read John C. Maxwell, he says, you when everything goes wrong, you take responsibility. When everything goes right, you give recognition.
Give it away. Yeah.
Right. And so it's challenging to be that, right? Especially because, of course, as humans, we have that ego that's always there, that just wants that recognition, wants that stage, that spotlight, all that kind of stuff. And so to come into that leadership role and really step into that humble role to allow for other people's passions or potential or genius to expand, it's very difficult at first, but it's where you get the most even like internally and personally rewarding things when you can step past that ego and you see, hey, this person has followed my lead and due to that has leveled up their life or has lit up their life by probably something you would say.
That's right.
But yeah, so to me, leadership has been the only reason I have any success, because it's impossible to have success alone, or at least it's impossible to have great success alone.
Right.
Of course, you could succeed, but you are limited by yourself, right? And so once you take on that leadership role and you really embody the leader that other people need you to be as well, that's really what it is as well, is you need to be a different leader for different people at different times. You create different spaces, all that kind of different opportunities and such. And so once you step in that role and you become that role and that space for the right role and space for those people, it's just incredible to see how much someone can flourish into and again unfold into their potential. And then again, it's like once you see that, you just got to step back and be grateful that you were able to guide them to that. Right?
Yeah, 100%, man. And like to facilitate that, to be someone who nurtures that, who like co-creates that into the world, who you're like, it's almost like you're fathering it, or mothering it
100%.
or nurturing, whatever we want to call it. Like you get to bring it. Right. So we get to bring it into the world, which is amazing. So I love that perspective that you take for that. And as far as the Wolf Syndicate and the coaching that you're doing, tell us a little bit more about that, just in case there's people who are hearing you for the first time.
Definitely, and I'd love to, but I want to actually come back to something that you said, the fathering, mothering thing. I'd like to point out that it's actually beyond that to be a leader, because a mother and a father will often, coddle you and fondle you and sort of just make sure that everything's okay and such. But a leader and a coach and a mentor and all that kind of stuff knows when you need to say the things that are harsh, that need to be heard, right? And so it's a completely different role, entirely different. It's I would argue is more impactful than a parent.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to be that role that has to give that tough love. And so yeah. But anyway, so in terms of the Wolf Syndicate and sorry, a little tangent.
Love it.
The Wolf Syndicate and so basically the Wolf Syndicate itself is a much larger vision of which is going to take the rest of my life to fulfill and beyond that, which is that it's going to, so basically a lot of people don't know what a syndicate is in the first place. So a syndicate is a group of people or organizations that follow a certain set of values, principles, or beliefs in its simplest form, basically. And so the idea is the Wolf Syndicate will have businesses or a conglomerate of businesses such that they all follow the same set of values and principles. That way, when, say, let's use a simple example, like, actually, basically what I'm doing right now, I have a retreat and I have my one-on-one coaching, and then there's also the Impact Network that can be considered part of the Wolf Syndicate. If, say, you go to the Impact Network and you love what you see, you love what we do, you love why we do it, how we do it, all that kind of stuff, and you know that another company within it, part of the Wolf Syndicate, follows those same principles and values, you already have that trust, that transference of trust. Because I trusted you in this, I'll trust you in that. And so what people will do is they'll come to the Impact Network and then they'll see, oh my God, I really love this. This is amazing. I'm getting value. I'm meeting people, all that kind of stuff. Like, how can I go beyond this? So then it's like, okay, well, we have our retreat, of course, right? And this is typical in the mentorship world, but I want to go even further to, like, for example, even if I have a painting business, so there's Wolf Syndicate painting, right? And then so you do great work with the painting, and then you realize, oh, I need a deck built. Well, we have Wolf Syndicate renos, but you can switch right over to the next one. So it's basically about creating, almost you can call it a community of businesses instead of just a community of people, a community of businesses that, again, follow that same set of values such that a client can feel comfortable jumping from one to the next and be served in every way. And so, and then the most fundamental why that I've discovered in terms of my role in it, because I would be, quote unquote above, if you want to make this hierarchical, is the life of the employees is by far the most important, right? They need to have deep, genuine relationships and feel like they have deep, genuine work that they're coming in for, right? I want my employees to jump out of bed and not want to leave, right? That's what it's got to be. And so I'm just really excited to bring that vision to fruition, make it my legacy, make it create transgenerational wealth, and go from there.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. And the first thing that came to my mind when you're talking about the different businesses that are all in the same group is BNI, right? Like, I don't know if you've heard of that, Business Networking International. And I don't see necessarily the values as the leading driver for why people are there. It's more like, hey, we're gonna go net. Yeah, we just want referrals, right? Versus it's like, hey, I'm going to the Wolf Syndicate because I know, one, that they have any business that I need, and two, that like they have the values. That one is the values, two is that they have whatever business I need, right? Lead with the values. Yeah. So that's powerful, man.
Exactly, because that's what it's got to be, right? If everyone knows that they're following a certain set of values and principles that they believe in, right? Like it needs to be that you fundamentally believe in them as well.
Yeah, there's people who aren't going to want to work with the Wolf Syndicate.
And
you're like,
fine.
That's cool.
That's totally fine. Like, we don't want you, you don't want us. It's nothing personal. We just don't connect on that matter, and that's completely okay. But that's what it needs to be, right? Like, we're not, and I'm sure you know this, like everyone, I'm sure listening. Well, not everyone, but basically, it's like you can't please everyone, right? There's just no way. There's people, you're gonna have haters, and that's just the way it is. But you have to stick to something so that you can create real, genuine followers.
Yeah, powerful, man. Okay, so we're going to go back in the journey now and find out how you got to where we are today. What were some of the challenges that you overcame? What was some of the wisdom that you picked up along the journey? So take us back to where you want to start and telling the story.
Yeah, for sure. I think we might as well just throw back all the way to the decade ago, the whole dark past thing. I've been coming into I guess, comfort with sharing that story. There was a long time where I didn't share because I felt maybe I'd be judged. But really, you got to step into who you were to present who you are. And so where my journey began in terms of an entrepreneur was in drug dealing. Okay, so I started with just selling some weed, and the idea was like, hey, I want to cover my costs for buying weed. And so it started super simple, but I really, it was at a time where I had no purpose, no vision, no dream, no direction. I had no inspiration. I had nothing to just make me think. I would question, why am I here? What's the purpose? What am I doing? Just these kind of dark and saddening questions, because the answers were always, I don't know, or nothing, or what the fuck. Like, there was just nothing.
Right.
And so over time, of course, whenever you're in those kinds of question sequences, you usually go towards alcohol, drugs, and all those kinds of things. So my outlet, it was partying with drugs. And so long story short, in that sort of area, I got really big. I actually became quote unquote successful at becoming a drug dealer. I had like many different recurring clients, suppliers, like all that kind of stuff. And finally I came to the realization, gladly not too late, that this is one of two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to die or I'm going to go to jail. Right? That's it. The second realization that I had that really clicked for me was, I'm running a business. That's what I'm doing. Right? I have, like I said, suppliers, customers, employees, all this kind of thing. It's like, you know what, how can I possibly do this in a legal way? And so I'm very, very grateful and fortunate that, I did not get caught for anything. I moved on from that and completely blanked the slate. And so that's when, as you saw in my bio, I switched my universe. I completely transformed myself, literally rebranded myself, literally like just completely changed everything, phone number, the whole shebang. And was able to escape to the point where I went back to school, all that kind of stuff, and moved from Montreal to Ottawa, right? Because I needed to get out. Like, for even a couple years after I'd left the game, I was still being messaged, and it was very difficult to let that go. But in doing that, again, so I started to realize lots and lots of things, and I came upon one philosophy, which was the philosophy of trust, right? So trust is a very fickle situation. A lot of people get scarred by trust. There's a lot of people that fall into the trap of, I've been burned so many times, I can't trust anybody. And as soon as you do that, you have forsaken yourself to a lonely life. And so what I realized, because I was backstabbed by someone I believe was my best friend, I gave him somewhere to stay for a few weeks when he had nowhere to go. And he ended up completely backstabbing me. He did like everything you could imagine an enemy would do, which was really heartbreaking to me. And so I sort of fell into that lack of trust. And then I came out of it, and I can't even tell you exactly what happened, but basically I realized everyone deserves one chance, right? Everyone deserves at least one chance to trust, because you need to have that vulnerability to give out that trust. If you never give that one chance, then no one will ever trust you, and you will be alone. Now, there's risk in that, of course. You can get harmed, hurt, taken advantage of, and such. But let me ask you, right, or rhetorically, is it worth that risk to find, the best friends, your life partner, your lovers, your business partners, like all these kind of things? Is it worth that risk? I think it far outweighs.
Absolutely.
Right? So you need to take that chance. And so I started to take those chances, and which then led me to the University of Ottawa, and I started to take my life a lot more seriously. And so from there, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of maybe College Pro window cleaning, which is a franchising, student franchising business. Mm-hmm. And so basically, I was coming into fruition with the idea of I can do anything I set my mind to. This idea where if I saw someone in front of me was successful, my mentality was thinking, well, if they can do it, why can't I? Mm-hmm. A lot of people need to come to that understanding. And I think that that's what I would almost call the self-awareness rebirth, when you realize that you have the power to do anything you set your mind to. So the idea was there, the theory was there, but I didn't have evidence of it for myself, at least. College Pro gave me that opportunity. At College Pro, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go all in on this. I'm going to see what I can do when I just dial in. Mm-hmm. And so in my first year, which is considered your rookie year, I broke the rookie record in the company. So the company had been around for 40 years. They have anywhere between 20 and 50 managers that are rookies per year. And I broke the record of all time. Wow. So that was a really big taste of like, okay, interesting. There's something here, right? Like manifestation, all that kind of stuff, like setting your mind. And then this is when I started really digging into self-development and like trying to apply all these different things. And, it's that I'm sure you remember the time when you like discovered the world of self-development. You're just like, oh yeah, whoa, I can like do stuff. And like,
I'm obsessed.
Oh man, it was nuts, right? And so I'm just applying and trying and testing. And the biggest thing too in the self-development industry, of course, is like there's so much information and it can get so overwhelming. And then there's different opinions and directions and all that. And so one lesson that I obviously came to understand was, well, you need to make your own, right? You need to refine and discover like what is your tools and so on and philosophies and such that you want to follow. So books and all these things, they're gateways into the minds of those successful people. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you need to adopt their mind. It means you need to make a mind of your own from theirs, right? You sort of create that collective consciousness within your own mind and expand it as such. And so that was really fun to start discovering. Now, of course, having done such a successful first year, I came back for a second year. And then in my second year, I wanted to be more ambitious. So what was really cool is I had 11 employees in my first year, and 10 of them came back the year after, which in the industry is quite unheard of because, students, they would go from doing the summer job and then they'd go back to school. And then it's like a total change of kind of like, why would you come back to get something else? So 10 out of 11 came back. The only reason the 11th didn't is because they left and went to study in Toronto. So it would have been 100%. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, all right, well, we're going for number one in the whole company. So now this is not just against rookies, this is all managers. Yeah. And so this, and just to like really sum it up, we did finish number one out of 112 franchises. We had the biggest franchise in all of North America. So this is across US and Canada. But what was really cool, so 2 lessons came out of this one. There was a time management lesson and the win-win relationship lesson. Mm-hmm. The win-win relationship lesson is one of my favorite. It's one that I talked about with every single person that I coach or mentor or lead or something like that. And the lesson came from, in that franchising industry, I'm competing with 112 other people, all running their own franchise and such. However, it comes from competing with yourself. And what I mean is, to compete with yourself means you're only up against yourself, even though there's others you're competing against. And so what's beautiful is when you compete with yourself and you seek to only win against yourself, and you're always seeking to beat yourself every single day and so on, and then you're open to sharing everything you're learning as you're beating yourself to others, even your competitors, they start to develop a sense of respect and loyalty to you, even if they're your adversaries. Because they know that even though you're their adversaries, you're not even competing against them, you're competing against yourself. And so what was incredible is by the end of the year when I won, even the people that were second, third, fourth place, neck and neck with me all year long, that I could have been like, they were sabotaging me for all, depending on how it went. Right. It ended up being that they were the biggest fans of me winning. They wanted me to win. They were so pumped that I won because they knew that the entire time I was competing with myself and I was helping them get there. Everything that I learned, I shared. And so I developed these win-win relationships where we then would help each other and then we would scale so much higher. That year we had so many of like high-level managers because we sort of created this, like, I guess you could say, elite group of high-level helpers and such. So win-win was huge. And then time management. Yeah, it was really beautiful actually to see it come together. And then time management was a big thing because simultaneously, while doing the college pro, I then had Vector Marketing. A lot of people maybe know it as Cutco Cutlery. So it's a sales company. We sell cutlery product. And they're, again, big in North America. Been around for, I think, 60 years, something crazy like that. And during the winter, so outside of the summer, my story is a little bit all over the place with this. It's kind of hard to make it fit, but it's a little bit wild. So I'd become a top sales rep. And as the summer was coming, which is when College Pro really kicks in and starts, the window cleaning business as such, they wanted me to become a sales manager at the same time. And I was like, well, that seems unrealistic because I want to become number one franchise manager, and now you're asking me to become a sales manager. So originally I was like, no, that's not possible. Somehow they convinced me to do it though. So like, we really want you to do it. And, you don't have to be here that often, maybe like once or twice a week, something like that, we'll figure it out. It's like, all right, screw it. Like whatever. Like I was at that time in my life where like, let's just jump on everything.
Right.
And every entrepreneur's had that, right? That just jump on everything, every shiny object, and so on and so forth, until you realize that you can't do that anymore. But that's another lesson. So then during the summer, I'm coaching all these people on sales and how to sell Cutco and Vector and all that while I'm running my 20-person team at College Pro, because of course it got bigger this year. And that's happening at the same time. Now here's where it gets really wild, where time management just became the ultimate for me, which was that at the end of summer, there was a contest for Vector. And it's a 2-week contest where you just go all in and you compete with everybody. And by the end of the 2 weeks, we culminate the sales, and whoever's in first place wins, and you get like really sexy prizes and so on. I was like, well, Christ, like, how am I going to do this at the same time as my franchise? It's like dead middle of still doing selling, still doing all that stuff. So it became delegation was huge, of course, and then time management. How can I do this? And I was able to build my team such that while I go all in on that contest, my business was still growing. I was still getting sales coming in. I was still getting produced jobs and so on and so forth. And I was actually able to finish first in all of North America again, right? All in Canada, sorry. And so that was mind blowing again, because I finished first there. And then basically like 2 weeks later, I received the award for first college pro at the same time. It was completely savage. I really don't know how I did it, but it would come down to, again, time management, that leadership, that delegation, having the team that's there for you, that's there to support you in what you're doing, because you're there to support them in what they're doing. One of the big things I did in my second year on a meeting in January with them, I said, what are your goals? What do you guys want? How much money do you want to make this summer, and where do you want it to go? And to do that with people, the students that are window cleaners and they're like second year students, and like, that's not a question they get asked. They're still not used to that. But they got so driven and so into the same goal, because I've always said, you need to make it that your team feels like they're part of something greater than themselves. I want to say that again. Your team must feel like they're part of something greater than themselves. If they are not, they will only punch in and punch out and get a paycheck. It's so important. And again, a huge lesson that once that happens, people go out of their way for you. And it's like Simon Sinek says, it's like, it comes down to knowing that, someone would do something for you because you know that you would do something for them. And it's that reciprocal love.
Yeah. Dude, that's powerful. And I think it's so important today, because there's so many different projects and things to be working on. As a leader, like, we have to set that vision as something that, hey, it's not just like, we're not just building a community, we're building the fucking community. We're building the community that's like reaching across the world, that's going to have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people in it, or like, it's going to massively, deeply change these people's lives. Like, imagine their families, imagine their communities that are benefited because of this coaching, because of this marketing, because of the ripple effect, whatever it might be. So, dude, I love that. That's powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that was all really fun. And then what happened was, with all that success and me posting about it, all that fun stuff, I had someone from a startup software company reach out to me and say, hey, you need to come sell some software. It was pretty funny, because he was someone that I looked up to and had conversations with. And, we connected on the fact that his first bit was window cleaning and so on. His name is actually Steve Cody. Some people may have even heard of him on your podcast here. And so I went to work for him. So I actually took on a job this time. So this is the first time I had a job in like years at this point. But I went in as a sales exec. So obviously sales, that's where I championed. So I did really, really well there and so on and so forth. But it was 8 months of like startup grind. And if you haven't done startup yet, do it. It's a fun experience, but understand that you might partially die for a few months. And that's okay.
Yep. Yep.
But when it's software, it's like there were weeks where we would go 5 days straight of like 13-hour shifts, kind of thing, you know? And then still come in on the weekend for like 8 hours both days.
Yep.
It was nuts, but it was really cool at the same time. But naturally, it got to a point where death or software. I think I'm gonna, or death or life or whatever. To move on. From
Software and death or life.
Yeah, basically. So I think the choice is pretty clear. But so ironically, the day that I decided to move on from there was the same day that I then got approached by a division manager for Scholarship Service. So it was another student franchising business. And while I was at this job, I missed the leadership. I missed the team, right? Like once you take that leadership role and you really do make an impact on people's lives and just by doing what's right, not what's easy, and they see you doing that and they do it as well. Like you can't give that up. It's like the most invigorating thing that you can do is of course impacting someone else's life. And so I was like, God, I want that back. So I went back to the student franchise. This time was for painting. And I came in like super late. Like people typically start in January. I had started in March, and I still ended up coming in second place. Unfortunately, it wasn't first, but that's okay. But I came in second place with that, and I was offered a coaching role. And that's where my coaching, my real coaching life happened. Now, of course, as I'm sure you can relate, and many other mentors, coaches who do it as a job kind of didn't choose the job. It sort of chose them. Right. It's kind of like throughout your life, you were an advice giver or something like that. And yeah, so it sort of just like fell onto my lap as I feel any other coach that would happen as well. And then that went super well, of course. I mean, what an experience. Again, it's such a different type of leadership again, because now it's really indirect results. It's completely disassociated results. It's very difficult to make that transition of being someone who brings in the results to then being someone who doesn't directly bring them in, but actually fully delegates and teaches and so on and so forth. Right. So it's very challenging. But of course, again, it comes down to, again, and then this is also the topic of, there's a big difference in knowing a skill and knowing how to transfer the skill.
Totally.
Right. Completely different skills. And this is why there's so much, what would you call it? Not discomfort necessarily, but, unfortunateness, let's just go with that, screw it, where someone does very well in a company, they become very successful, they get results, and then they move up to a management position, and they don't give them any leadership or management teaching. They just think, oh, well, you did well in that role, now you're good at teaching the role, you're good at managing the role, and it never works, and people crash and burn. And then what happens, of course, is that manager just says, oh, screw it, I'm going to do it for myself, and everything crashes. There's such a lack of leadership and leadership training that's needed in corporate and really anywhere we go, because as we move up, the leadership level moves up as well. But if the person can't keep up to that level, then it just doesn't sustain itself.
Well, I'm grateful you brought this up, because I agree that oftentimes people are under-equipped to be able to handle that like next challenge that they're being promoted to. And also we see on like in the marketplace for coaches, for people who want to learn, who want to do personal development, that kind of stuff, the industry is booming for people who are able to transfer those skills. It's like, oh, I'm a coach. I want to transfer my skills of mindset to this entrepreneur or person to help them improve the results in their life. So that's been going for, since like Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill, there's been that desire or the booming of the industry to transfer the skills, because it used to just be elitist, right? Like only the elite could have the knowledge, or only the mentor would pass the knowledge along to the apprentice. And it was really difficult to have the mastery be able to spread around. So how fucking awesome is it today that there is that sharing of knowledge and skills and abilities, and people can get rich, people can live such amazing, abundant lives because they take the time to develop the capacity to learn how to share the wisdom, learn how to teach it, learn how to empower others. And I know that, and you know that, not everyone is equipped to be a teacher yet, and maybe not ever. Maybe someone, they just don't have the capacity. They don't have the inclination. They don't have the desire to go through the obstacle course to be able to develop themselves to that kind of person. So we talked about like knowledge, or one of the things we want to talk about was knowledge and action equals that
Mm-hmm.
power. So we're talking a little bit about knowledge right now. And I want to dive into that formula more fully and how you came up with that, why that's so important to you and the Wolf Syndicate and everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah, for sure. So knowledge plus action equals power. I took that line from actually one of my mentors. I've always sort of believed in it, but never really coined it in a way. And you know, it obviously comes from that idea of like knowledge equals power. Like that was a thing. That was a trend, a very, very powerful trend.
Totally.
But I'm sorry, if you read books all day and you just sit there, I don't know, man, like you're not really doing anything, right? And that's the typical trap that so many people fall in. Like we hear, of course, of what do they call it? Seminar, like addicts or seminar.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Seminar junkies, you know, like the seminar, like classic stories. So funny about someone who's been going to like real estate investing seminar to like rich dad, poor dad, to this one, to that one. And he's like, so it's like, I know everything I got to do, so on and so forth. Then you ask him like, oh, that's awesome. How many properties do you have? None. And it's like, seriously? And it's so impressive to see, and it's sad to see, and it's the biggest differentiator, right? It's that classic thing again where, oh, you look, people will look on TV or they'll see someone doing something and be like, oh, I had that idea, and it's like, I don't give a shit if you had that idea, man. You didn't take the action. Like, you sat on your ass, and someone out there had the idea and took action. Whereas the person sitting on his ass, of course, becomes a little bit vindictive or victim mentality or some kind of crap. All that stuff. Oh, that could have been me. It's like, no, it couldn't have, because if it could have, it would have, but you just didn't take the action. And so it's really funny. So now this is all fun on a theoretical, conceptual level and such. Like, I think fundamentally people know that you can't just like think into manifestation. You must actually act into manifestation. So the natural next question becomes, well, how do I get myself to take action? Right. This is, I think, the question that really needs to be resolved and solved and so on. And so there's many strategies. One of them, of course, is us, right? Accountability. Like that's one of the greatest things that is impossible to put a monetary value on, is accountability. And of course, so now if you can't afford a mentor or something of the kind, something I learned a long time ago was you can, of course, have accountability with a friend. Now let's talk about that for a second, though, because it's very difficult, or very easy, I should say, to fall into a mediocrity buddy, not an accountability buddy. Right? A mediocrity buddy is someone who, let's say you've got, this perfect example of classic situation is going to the gym, right? I want to go to the gym. You start going to the gym alone, like maybe you'll go out a couple times, but man, you're going to give up real fast. So if you have a mediocrity buddy, maybe you'll start out and you'll go together. You're like, yeah, let's do this. This is fun. You know, spot me. Let's do this, so on and so forth. And then as soon as you wake up and you're tired and you're supposed to go in the morning and you say, oh man, I'm feeling kind of tired. What does your mediocrity buddy do?
Yeah, I'm kind of tired too. We can pick it up later.
And then it never happens. Accountability buddy says, too fucking bad. We committed to this. We're doing this. And then, of course, what happens is a reciprocation. Because that happened to you, you then reciprocate that same thing. So this is very, very important. You need to be super selective with what your accountability buddy is before you go ahead with it, because it could be a mediocrity buddy. And as soon as someone lets you down on the commitment that you said you made to each other, that's a mediocrity buddy. Either, you know, sit down with them and get clear, or just get out. Or get somewhere else. So that's one thing, is of course that accountability. The other one, of course, as we said, is mentorship. Then other things in terms of action. Oh, there's so many strategies. Where do we want to go? Again, it also depends in terms of, you know, what kind of thing are you taking action on. So what I mean by that is like just an idea. An idea is interesting because as soon as you have an idea, if you give your mind more than 5 seconds to think about it, doubts seep in, right? All the what ifs, all that bullshit that makes you think, you know what, it's not worth it.
Right.
And so a little strategy that I learned, you probably have heard of it, is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have you heard of that strategy?
Yep.
I don't remember. Do you remember who it is who coined it?
Mel Robbins.
Cool. So that was, man, that's so champion. I love that stuff. Like the amount of times where I 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 myself out of bed. But basically, just in case anyone has not heard what it is, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is a concept which says that as soon as you have an idea or a thought or something that you'd like to do, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's specifically that because the way that it works in your brain, like if you did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it actually wouldn't work as well if you did 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know all the logistics about it, but basically it gets it so that you don't allow your mind to try to come up with excuses or justifications as to why you should not do it.
Right.
So you do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you take action. The other thing too is that I personally like to do is as soon as I have an idea, I write it down, and because that's a very good first step into manifestation.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as you take it out of your mind and put it onto paper, it's gone from metaphysical to physical. Right. And that is so powerful in and of itself. And so that's already sort of starting to take the action. Now, what I also like to do is what I've now really started to tap into is what I call collective consciousness. So collective consciousness is basically masterminding, right. But with more clarity on what the frame of the conversation is going to be. And how does this relate to what I'm saying? What I mean is once you have that idea, again, don't fall prey to your own mind. Don't just look at what you wrote down and start thinking about all the things that could go wrong. Present it to someone else who can give you the space to bounce back and forth without judgment. This is key. And so I'm fortunate enough that my girlfriend have this sort of a relationship, and my two roommates, David Poirier and Christina Miller, who you also interviewed. Yeah. We have this space where if we have ideas, we just talk about them. We stress test them. We see what they could be, the potential to this, the limitations, so on and so forth. But in this way, it's constructive, right? Versus, again, when it's on your own, what automatically happens is, of course, the comfort zone and all that kind of stuff. It just boom, turns on, and you're like, but if I do this, I'll be uncomfortable. I don't want to do this. And then it's gone. You scrap it. But again, when you're talking about it with someone else, assuming that space is properly made, they won't let you stay in your comfort zone. They'll push you. They'll be like, too bad. Like, you had an idea. Let's talk about it.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
So I think that's a really big step as well.
Yeah, it's awesome because when you have that like devil's advocate kind of person who's able to say, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What's the worst case scenario? How are you protecting against that kind of a downside? When you have that person, it's super empowering because you learn to stop taking things so personally about like having an idea work. Because as entrepreneurs, especially in coaches and people who have a message to share, our message is valuable. That's like our soul. We're communicating our soul to people. And so in a lot of our communications, and this is me personally, and I believe for a lot of other people as well, in a lot of communications, we tend to take that personal ownership of the communication of sharing our soul, our message, our brand, our what's important to us. And even if it's just sharing an idea, we take that ownership and take that personally. So it's important to have that practice of being able to share ideas and get grilled on it and say, like, what if this happens, and have the people around us who can do that for us, like yourself, Oliver, or myself, or, me and my team. Like, we do that with people. We hold the fiery truth to people and say, hey, what's the worst that could happen? And how are you protecting? How are you preparing for that?
And I'd love to add to that too a little bit, because a lot of people, that's very difficult to do naturally. In fact, it's literally impossible to do naturally because that's just not how we work. Right. So in the beginning, just set the intentions clear, right, with the person that you like to talk to, and set the intention that, like, literally say, right, like, I'd like to set a non-judgmental space, and I'd like to talk about this. The other thing too that I've actually learned to do with my girlfriend that's really cool is when things get a little bit heated or we feel attached to what it is that we're talking about, or whatever, we'll actually literally say, like, you know what, I'm feeling offended right now. And as soon as you declare that, it makes you introspective. Because then you think, I'm offended right now, but why? Right. Is it me? Is this my ego? Why am I being offended right now? Should I be offended? Is it because I'm associating myself to what I said, even though what I said is not actually me? It's just, again, it's an idea, it's a perspective, or so on and so forth. So it's a really powerful thing, and we've been practicing that with each other. And it really, because the other thing too is, of course, on the other end, what happens, right? If I tell you, Chris, I'm offended right now, naturally you're going to think to yourself, well, maybe I did say something. What did I do? Yeah. What did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Like, and then again, assuming you have that good space with each other, you can talk about that offensive. Like, you can, again, take that offensive out of who said it and look at it on its own as a third perspective. It's like, hey, Chris, let's look at why I'm offended here. What just happened? Well,
there's an energy dynamic, and if you say, I feel offended, can we look at that, or something like that, then it takes it out of, we're in the middle of the war, quote unquote, and says, hey, I don't want to be in war. Like, what's going on here?
Exactly. It's a perfect way to put it, is you're literally just taking yourself out of it, and you're observing, like, what just happened? How can we move forward from this? How can we grow from this? And so on. And then in those conversations, you'll find the raw truth, the truest truth. Because it's no longer emotionally charged, because you've taken the emotion out. You said, I'm offended right now. Let's look at this. This is the emotion. Let's get an idea of what this means.
Wow. Powerful. powerful, man. I love it. I love it. So in terms of your coaching, like, how do you see the best results with your clients? Like, what are the values that you bring? What are the types of conversations that you have that really make the difference for them?
That is a tough question. Naturally, I think it starts with the idea of, like, of course, everyone's different to a degree. I mean, of course, you can do the Myers-Briggs, and then you're classified. Here you are, NY, whatever, or ENTJ, or all that kind of stuff. But in the end, it's like, I find the most. Actually, you know what? I had a great conversation about something similar to this. So I had someone come up to me and ask me, like, what's this whole thing about coaching? I don't get it. Like, when do I know if I need my coach or my therapist? Like, what is this, right? It was a great conversation. And in fact, to cut to the end a little bit, it actually led to a consultation. So it was super fun.
Nice.
And she does want to sign up, which is great. But what was interesting is, it's a good question, right? It's like, why that, and then why am I talking about this, is that I think the most important conversations that I have are the ones that lead to genuine, real relationship. Because when you have a genuine, real relationship with your mentee, then you're able to talk about more than just the professional life, because your professional life will be a reflection of your personal life. Like, if you're going through a divorce right now, I'm sorry, your business is going to be affected, right? And if I'm supposed to coach you on your business, I need to also then try to coach you on your life.
Totally.
Because again, like, if I ignored your personal life and you were having a divorce, I'm here just trying to, like, attack your business. Like, why isn't this how you seem to be unfocused? Like, is it because you're not, like, clear on your goals and this and that and that? Like, no, it has nothing to do with that. Right? It has everything to do with that. And so it's so important to have those conversations where you can get connected as people and develop a real relationship, so that you can have those conversations that are outside of professional as well. Right? So you can have those personal relationships, talk about how, like, someone near close to them had died recently, and make the space for them to be able to let that go, and hopefully have them, accept that truth. And of course, in developing that, then what happens is an openness happens between the two of you. And in openness is when you have true growth, because, and I'm sure you probably face this as well, maybe in the beginning of your coaching, is your coachee or your mentee will not be honest about his results, or he won't be honest about how he's feeling or what he's thinking, or he won't tell you about how he failed until your weekly call or something, instead of when it happens. Like, all these things, like, those will all come to you if you created that open and genuine caring space for the person. As long as your mentee knows that you are there for them, you care for their well-being so much more than just getting the results. To me, I think that's been the greatest results that I've had, is those conversations.
Yeah, so how to have your client or mentee feel safe to come to you, right? Like, to be able to show up and just share whatever is truly on their mind. And I think that's also a function of each person's individual trust, because each person has their own challenges and obstacles and things that they've come up against. And as the coaching relationship builds, then they have that trust to be able to share those kind of deep, intimate feelings that maybe they didn't feel comfortable sharing with anyone else or before. Yeah,
for sure. And it comes, of course, another thing to sort of maybe sum it up is you need to have their best interest in mind. Yeah. So, and a great example of that actually is one of the mentees that I have. His name is Jamal Abdullah, and he super successful, and he's been one of my greatest students. And we've now, because he stayed with Scholars, I went on to Wolf Syndicate, and I'm thinking, like, I really like him to stay involved. I'd like him to come into maybe Wolf Syndicate and so on and so forth. But he also has an offer to stay with Scholars at Your Service. And so I'm talking to him on the phone. And of course, if I was biased and all that kind of stuff, and I didn't have his best interest in mind, I would, like, you got to come here. Totally. I've got what you need.
Just persuade him. Exactly, whatever it takes.
And I could do that. Like, I'm in sales, man. Right. Like, I can make someone do anything, basically.
Right.
And so that's the thing, though. But what I do with my mentees is I completely take myself out of the equation, and I simply make myself a sounding board or a mind, or like just something else that you can use to help you make a decision. So I broke it down with him. I'm like, let's look at exactly what your offer is with them. Let's look at the offer with me. Let's evaluate things. Let's take time into consider, like, just all the variables, and let's have a conversation about this disassociated from how I feel about it. Right. And this is huge. When you show that that's what you do, that you have their best interest in mind, then they're going to come to you all the time. Wow.
How do you create that for someone who doesn't necessarily have that as a leader, as a coach, whatever it might be? How do they actively create having someone's best interest in mind?
For sure. Yeah. So I'd say, let's see, there's some definitely like quote unquote tactics. One obvious one though is time, right? And so you have to start from day one with that in mind. I have his best interest in mind from day one. And in due time, your actions, as long as that's your intention, right? It's always about intention. As long as your actions follow your intention. So if your intention is that, your action will follow such. And eventually what will naturally happen is they'll see that in you, right? So it can actually happen on its own. Now, if you want to bring it a little bit more tactical, I would do things like not keep it fully professional. I would, like, for example, I've got my mentee, Matt Tebow. He's an online marketer and he's looking to boost his sales and all that kind of stuff. I've taken him out rock climbing. I've taken him out longboarding. What else have I done with him? I think just different things, right? I take him out to these personal activities. And when you come out to these personal activities and you get to have fun with each other, you get to have genuine conversations about genuine things and you talk the truth and all that kind of stuff. And again, because you still have that intention in mind, that'll come up in your conversations. They'll more and more and more learn to trust and trust and trust. Eventually you just become this person that they just know they can go to no matter what.
Yeah. Damn.
But I think the key thing that I'd probably want to just like hammer home is it's the intention. Intention from day one, act on that intention and it'll come to manifestation on its own volition.
It's powerful. So have that like guiding rudder, guiding compass that
Exactly.
I'm going to go above and beyond to make sure that they're equipped, that they're empowered, that their best interests are in my heart, and I'm going to put myself in their shoes. Like what would really make the difference for them? What is it that they really want? What are their dreams? What are their goals? I think that's super important too, is having those clear. Like what is important to them? Where do they want to be in 5 years? And if you're not able to share that or at least somewhat verbalize that and articulate that, then we know that there's room for growth. There's room for deeper intimacy, deeper connection in the relationship to create that trust and that harmony.
Yeah. And it's super fun, man. Like once you get that connection with your mentee, you're just having fun. Like you're getting paid to have fun.
Yeah, I love it, man. Awesome. And as far as, embodying that leadership, how do you see yourself embodying the leadership of the Wolf Syndicate moving forward?
Could you maybe rephrase that question a little bit?
Sure. Embodying the leadership of the Wolf Syndicate, how do you see yourself like really living that and those principles moving forward? What does that look like? What can people expect from you?
Okay. So the big thing again, and it kind of goes back to like my mentorship and such, because heading that big of an organization, you have to be a coach, basically. A CEO is a coach and so on and so forth. And so the things that I'm striving to embody, and of course looking to master and nowhere near there, is a lot of things that I actually learned from Ray Dalio's book, Principles, which is incredible. And some of the things he talks about is radical transparency, radical open-mindedness. And those two things I find are key to how I want to lead and embody the leadership in me. And so they're two-sided. So radical transparency is me saying to you the truth that I see with assertion. It's very important, assertion, because you could, there's lots of times where you'll be like haphazardly on how you give your feedback. Like you're like, oh, I don't want to offend you. I'm gonna. You kind of like swiggle your way around and such, and that's not radical transparency. Like you're being transparent about what you'd like to say, but you're not being assertive about it, and the person will not get what you're trying to say if you're not being assertive about it. And then, of course, radical open-mindedness is the opposite direction, right? It's like you need to be open to the fact that you are potentially, and in fact, most likely wrong, right? That all the truth that you've come to believe are maybe not the actual truth, right? They could be the truth that you've come to perceive due to the paradigms that you have grown from your childhood or from whatever has happened to you, right? There's so many variables that make us feel like X is true. But is that the truest truth? Or is that the truth that you've used to sort of, again, label the world in front of you? And so to become radically open-minded, it's difficult. You need to put down your ego. You need to put down your beliefs, and you need to just come into a state of being open to hear about what someone else may have to say. And one thing that I've actually learned as well from that is kind of a fun thing, is this idea that if anyone has anything to say, then there's some truth to it. And so what I mean to that is a lot of people say, like, oh, like ignore the haters, or ignore the this, or ignore that, or don't listen to this, you know, all that kind of stuff. But if someone is saying something directed at you, then in one way or another, small or huge,
right,
you have brought that out of them.
totally.
And you need to look at that and think, okay, where's the truth in this? Like, even if someone just like flips you off out of nowhere, it's like, and of course, like 99% of it is probably him. He's having a pissed off day. Maybe he's just a vindictive guy, whatever. But there's still something that you potentially did, just a little something that you can maybe tweak to better your life, to better the way that you hold yourself. Maybe it was literally just the way that you stood, and you could be standing in a more confident or more open or more comfortable way. So anyway, so two things that I think, again, are the most important in how I want to lead the Wolf Syndicate is radical transparency, radical open-mindedness, being open to feedback, being ready to take it all in, and serve it all out.
Yeah, so powerful. Those are two like super like real qualities. You know, it's like real that, hey, I'm going to give you the real stuff, the real feedback, whether you like it or not. I'm giving you the truth. If you can't handle it, get out the kitchen, right? Can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen. And then the open-mindedness is super important too, because as a leader, it's up to us to create an environment where people are feeling safe to come share their thoughts and their opinions, and to not pretend like we have all the answers, because we don't, you know. And like you said, we've gotten to this place because of our upbringing, because of our environment. And I think at the end of the day, all truth is really subjective. It's all about, you know, what's the outcome that you're really going for. If you're going for the outcome of living a morally, holistically, you know, good life based on our current societal definitions, then it's true to be kind to people. It's true to be respectful. It's true to honor your word, to be in integrity. And if your truth is to survive, like people in like Africa or third world countries, you don't give a fuck about that. Integrity, shoot, you know? So it's like, it's really interesting how everyone, depending on their upbringing and where they're at in life and where they're going, have a different perspective of the world. So Oliver, we're beginning to wrap this up, man, and we want to know what are the final takeaways, the final keys that we want our audience to really get from this interview, man.
That is a good question. Let me sit into that for a second.
Okay.
First thing that simply flows into my mind, no idea why it's this, but let's go with it, is be yourself. Don't know why, but let's go with that. So be yourself. So the message I want to say is be yourself. Yeah, you know what? This came up in a conversation recently, actually. It was very interesting. So I went to a banquet on Saturday for Scholars at Your Service, all that kind of stuff. And amazing banquet, got to give out a speech, give out awards. It was amazing. Scholars at Your Service, super fun. And so at one point we went outside, get some fresh air, and I had a conversation with 5 other people. You know, a couple of them were my managers that I hired and trained and all that kind of stuff. So I already kind of had like an authority role or something like that. But what was interesting is we got into one of the things that I didn't appreciate about working at that company was that I had to put on a mask. And I had to be this professional person. I shouldn't swear. I shouldn't fool around too much. I need to give off this professional impression so that people feel like they want to be like me or look up to me or something like this, right? And it sort of made me feel, it kind of suffered. I was suffering because I felt like I was not being myself. I couldn't have as much fun as I'd like to have. I couldn't be the self that I wanted to be. And so I explained that. I couldn't be this person because I had to be someone else for them and for the brand and all that kind of stuff. And so what I was talking about is like with the Wolf Syndicate, I just want to be me. I want to be as raw and true and as me as I can possibly be. And what I want to do when I do that is attract whoever that attracts. And so I won't be able to perfectly reiterate this because it came out in such a nice flow. But basically what was interesting as a feedback comment was, well, don't you have to adapt to the market? Right? Don't you kind of have to be what the market wants you to be? And I said, yes, if you're an entrepreneur, then sure. But if you're a visionary, then the market will adapt to you.
Damn.
Right. And it really struck a chord on myself. And I'd never said that before, but it just made sense. I was like, that's what it is. Like, you need to be yourself. And if you just hold true to that and you have a vision of something to become a visionary, the market will adapt to you.
Damn.
Right. So I think that's what I'd like to probably leave it off with.
That's powerful. That's powerful. You heard it best, everyone. The market will adapt to you. The people around you, I think a big thing that I hear is people around you your environment will start to say, oh, damn, he's serious. Okay. He's not giving up, so let's support him.
Totally. Universal alignment.
That's right. That's right, man. I love it. So, Oliver, you're a freaking powerhouse, man. And anyone who's listening or watching right now totally wants to know, how do they stay connected with you? How can they continue the journey with you? And what do we want them to do next?
For sure, man. So naturally, like where I'm most active is on Facebook. You can look me up, Oliver Wolf. So you'll find me there. I'm wearing actually my black shirt, got a binder and such. Or I'm smiling. We'll see. Maybe by the time this is released, it'll be a different picture. So Facebook's the most active place that I am, where I post lots and so forth. In terms of like, if you want to move forward with me, there's two things. One is the retreat that I had mentioned earlier. The retreat is really cool. It's a 2.5-day retreat where we basically apply what I talked about, collective consciousness. Mm-hmm. We apply that to the retreat. That's basically the goal. So every facilitation, workshop, so on and so forth, leads to being able to create the space to have this collective consciousness where no matter where you are in your business, the fact is that there's a problem in the way from you achieving the next level. And if you could use 12 other minds to help you figure out what to do to get past that problem, then that's how you'll become the next level sort of thing. So that's one big thing, is just this retreat. Really very powerful. The other thing too, of course, is my one-on-one coaching. Real simple. I mean, I love this line that I've sort of come up with. You know, people say that more money, more problems. I think that's bullshit. More money, more solutions. Because you can afford help. You can afford teachings, education, more mentors. You can afford employees and so on and so forth. So man, I get you sales, right? Like that's why I love coaching sales. Is the result of my coaching is money, baby.
Yeah.
And of course, as a residual effect of that too, because to be successful at sales, you also need to be confident.
Yeah.
And so in confidence comes so much more as well. So it's sort of a residual effect.
Yeah. So confident and good with relationships too, you know, good with with people, good
That's what real sales is, right?
Yeah. Taking an idea, putting it into reality. It's like manifesting the vision. That's what sales is.
Influence, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's all part of that. And so of course you can also reach me at Oliver Wolf at thewolfsyndicate.com.
Awesome. Dude. Oliver, thank you so much. And everyone, definitely stay connected with Oliver. Get to one of his mastermind retreats. Connect with them on Facebook. Send him an email. Find out more about what he does, because he's a powerhouse. And Oliver, super stoked to be growing on the journey with you, man. You're a powerhouse. And I'm grateful to be connected. And just like all the potential that we have, man, all the potential in the world. You're 26, I'm 27, so it's like we have so much life ahead of us, and it's important to take each day like and give it our best, and you know, to imagine that we're here at this age and doing this, and like all of the bright future and possibilities and technology and all this kind of stuff. Just freaking A, man, we're blessed, so freaking blessed.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
love it,
awesome,
brother.
Awesome, dude. Have the best day ever, and we'll see you very soon. Okay.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Good luck with the rest of your calls.
Dude, it's just the beginning. We're just getting started, baby.
Let's go.
Awesome, man. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.